Hola. So, it is a rainy Saturday. I am at home alone. It is the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre, and I was watching TV for like a couple minutes, and I just had to turn it off. So, today is the day that I have to get political. Today is the day that I have to get a little real with it, because it's out of hand. It's out of hand, and I'm really not understanding why more people are not speaking up or speaking on, or just, I guess, just realizing how performative everything is. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about that today. I feel like as Black people, we really need to start coming to a collective understanding about what progress means and what progress is, how we define progress, and how we determine how actual progress is made. I feel like these are basic questions that we should all have some sort of idea about, and we don't. And I feel like that's why things are not moving. I feel like there's a divide in generations, because I feel like when older people and people who have, grown up hearing about the sacrifices, the blood, sweat, death, and tears that went into the civil rights movement and all of the movements that came before us, people get offended when you say that there hasn't been any progress. And that makes me sad a little bit, because it's definitely not, I don't think, anyone's intention when they say they haven't seen progress. But in the same sense, we have to start looking at facts. What I feel deep in my heart is that from day one in this country, Black people have continued to be manipulated. And so while, yes, we fought and for all of the rights that we have today, those rights were then manipulated. Just given an example of segregation, we fought to integrate schools, and here we are in 2021, and schools are the most segregated that they've ever been. Neighborhoods, so everything is still very much segregated, technically. So what do we gain? And so when I'm watching TV and I'm seeing, the commentators in Oklahoma, and they have all of these things. They're doing the whole thing for the massacre in the same week that the state, I should double check. I should have double checked this before I started recording, but I believe the state passed a law that prevents you from teaching critical race theory. So there are classes that have already been going on for years that have now been canceled because of this new law. Classes that taught racial disparities and white supremacy, and just teaching the actual real truth. Those classes have now been canceled and can no longer continue because of these new laws. But we in Oklahoma, and they got all types of balloons and shit up to acknowledge this. I'm confused. I'm confused. We have to, somebody has to do better than it. We cannot allow pretty things in front of our face to distract us from what actually needs to happen. And so I personally, if anyone out there is interested, I personally would like to have more conversations around progress and what that means to us and what we're asking for, what we want. What's happening right now in our country with our politics, with our issues and all of that, when it comes to Black people, it's some straight foolishness. And there's no one that I feel like you can speak to that's going to disagree with. Like, it's just foolishness when you compare it to the response in other situations. Now, that doesn't mean other situations don't deserve the responses that they got, but Black people have had no response. A year after George Floyd, dozens of other people have also been killed by the same people, and nothing has been done. We're literally moving backwards because laws are being put in place to prevent us from educating people about why these things are happening. So when are we going to stop accepting the bare minimum? When are we going to stop being happy that they're acknowledging a massacre and demand that they make that shit right? When are we going to stop being okay with dying? That's what I'd like to know. It's just very frustrating because one person can't do it, two people can't do it. It really has to be collective action. And for whatever reason, we just can't get on the same page about even what we want. So let's get to the root. Let's start having those conversations openly and publicly about what Black people want and what Black people deserve and what Black people want to see. Action taken, just like the AARP hate bill got passed in what was it, even 6 months? I don't even know how long it was like that. So just like that, I want us to have I want us to have something, a list, a thing. Everybody made fun of Ice Cube and his demands for Black America, but what have we gotten? So I would like us to have these open conversations and have these lists of things that can be done at the federal level to protect us, to start to rectify some of the wrongs in this 400 plus year history of foolishness that everyone likes to pretend didn't happen, that we're still debating about. I'm not trying to debate this shit anymore. Like, this is an irrelevant ass argument. We know what happened. We know the situation. And the people that y'all have put in office supposedly do too. But for some reason, we're still having to experience laws being passed I can't even speak the words. Like, that's how foolish this shit is. It's just so foolish. And I get angry because no one should have to even speak this shit out loud. We live in a free country, but there's laws being passed about history and the truth and what you're allowed to say in schools. When is enough enough? When is enough for you to look outside of your bubble and pay attention to what's happening? Whatever. It's just me.